It was long ago when the aliens come to America and they brought electricity. Now, I know you've been taught it was an invention by all kinds of people from Tesla to Alexander Graham Bell. No, wait, that was a telephone. But anyway, Genesis is going electric in a very big way. They can't stop themselves because they're having so much fun doing it. And here we have one of their latest creations, but it still has some of that stuff that we love from Genesis and electricity. Yeah. Whew. A charging port that disappears like it wasn't even there. Uh-huh. Yeah? Want to learn more? Let's go together into the land of the electron. Once again. GV70 Electrified.
1938. Can you imagine what it must have been like then?
Yeah, now you've seen a similar car before. Could have been a GV60 or something like that that had electric power from your friends at Genesis. But this is a 2023 model in this amazing gunmetal kind of metallic, which is a phenomenally interesting color that actually fits this car to a T because it's kind of stealthy. It kind of sneaks up on you like electrics do. And this one is a luxury car that also has a little bit of SUV in it, including the glorious fact that it's all-wheel drive. Now, how do they do that with an electric wheel? They do it with two electric motors. There's one for these wheels, and there's one for these wheels. And both of these electric motors put out about 160 kilowatts, or a grand total of, when you throw everything together, 429 horsepower. Wow. So it scoots, it goes where you want it to real quick. And the battery pack that goes with it, first of all, the thing that fascinates me about these lithium ion polymer batteries and all lithium ions that power cars and pickups is how heavy they are. This particular battery pack on this car is, let's see, 77.4 kilowatts and weighs in at 1,063 pounds. That's a big battery. Can you imagine if you had one of them in your situation? Wow, what have I got down here? Is this a dead rat? Oh no, that's just a little baggie I keep stuff in. Wow. Strange how it matches the hues of this vehicle. But anyway, we have a 1,060 something pounds of battery that is, of course, mounted to the bottom part of the unibody chassis to aid handling. Or actually, you could look at it from the standpoint it's there to not detract from handling, because if you put it, let's say you put all them batteries in the doors, it would be much higher up and it would handle like crap. But instead, this $5,000, don't we wish, 5,000 pound crossover CUV handles quite nicely. It handles almost like a sedan. And it's not surprising because look at that fastback. Wow. I think it has a beautiful tail end on it. The front end's good. I have no truck with the front end, but I think the back of this car is stunning. Stunning! And the further away you get, the more you see how it just melts the sunlight that hits it with that particular color. It's wonderful. It also has, when you're talking about a 5,000 pound car, it also has substantial brakes, and a long wheelbase for this thing is 113.2 inches. So it's not a small vehicle. Although exactly what size class I haven't even looked at yet. But it's amazing. I mean, it drives like all electrics do. It's completely smooth, effortless. But I know the thing that's poking around your head right now is how long does it take to charge and how much range does it have? Well, I'll get into that in depth, I assure you. So, because let's be honest, that's the number one thing about electrics. To me, actually, the number one factor is how long it takes to recharge it. Because if you have like a 200, 250 mile range, that's not that bad. I mean, you can live with that. Most people don't drive but a couple hundred miles per week. And I'm talking about the average American that drives to work and drives back during the week. And as long as you can plug in and recharge quickly, you're fine. That limited range doesn't even bother you. You don't even notice it, especially if there is plentiful supply of charging stations. But where we live here, no sir, there aren't. And with all electric cars like this and like the pickups and everything else, if all you have at your home is 120 volt, it will literally take, you deplete your battery down about 20%, it's literally going to take over a day, maybe two, to bring it all the way back up to full charge. But if you have a 240 volt charger, that is dramatically shortened. And then if you have fast chargers, which this vehicle is capable of swallowing a lot of electricity pouring into it, at a lot of the charging stations that you'll encounter out on the public thoroughfares, then it's even shorter. So they're getting these things closer to parity with automotive vehicles that are powered by gasoline. Although I said closer, they still have a long, long way to go. And it's another reason why I'm real big on hybrids, because hybrids cover all the bases. They still burn fossil fuel though, but not near as much as a lot of the other things running down the roadway out there. But now, let's look under the hood, because you never know what you're going to get under the hood of an electric car. Will it have a frunk? Will it have what looks like an a gasoline engine, but it's not? Let's take a look, shall we? Wow, you looky there. Looks kind of like a coffee table when you get right down to it. This is obviously not one of these. Genesis is part of the Hyundai family, as you know. And I love the fact that, for instance, the Kona, oh, let's fix something right away. Someone did not close this. It was not I. But I like the fact that they put windshield washer fluid in there, because the bugs are coming out and well, they do horrible things to a windshield. But the Hyundai Kona Electrified, for example, has what looks like a regular engine on it, because they put an engine cover over the electric motor that drives the front wheels. And I love that, because it's hilarious to me, because some people, you open it up and just assume you have a gas engine, but you don't. But there's no mistaking here with the Genesis, with this G70. It's real obvious that this is merely a plastic shroud for what lies beneath, and what lies beneath is the front drive module, or I like to call them modules just because I think it fits this futuristic automobile. The front drive module's underneath there. And what do we have here? This is a structural implement to help overall chassis stiffness and handling, and deduct points from outstanding ride. What is it? Ride something and harshness? I forget. I never really widely adopted that in my 20-something years as an automotive writer. I think that more than anything else, it's there for handling. But anything that stiffens up the chassis is also good to keep it noise, vibration, hardness. Noise, vibration, and harshness is what I'm talking about. And anything that stiffens the chassis usually helps that. So now looky here. Woo! What do we have under here? Well, we have a nice little storage area with a nice little storage area light. And this, what could this be? Is this our charging cable? No. This is our tire mobility kit, because we don't have a spare apparently. And you know how I feel about that, but there it is. It's easy to get to, that's for sure. It's right up front. And up in here you can put like some decks of cards. If you have a dive computer, you can put that over here. And let's see, what else? If you have your darts, for throwing darts, you put them darts up here. It's just a nice little storage bin for your convenience. And we like that. We like convenience. But that's it. And like I said, riding below is the drive system for the front axle, front drive train, as it were, and it's 160 kilowatts of electric power, which is the same it has in the back. Hence the term all-wheel drive. And there's so much more to see on this car. Let's go back aft. Speaking of which, since I'm talking about the after, look at the brakes. Wow. It says Genesis in white, black on white. I like that. There we go. Behold. Oh, someone left this open. That would be me. Right here is your cover, which you can access or store, which I think is brilliant. See, it's completely stored away when you don't want to use it, but it's there if you need it. And you have a pretty decent amount of storage capacity here. And you have your basic 60-40 seats, or I'd say that's 71-29. Getting real close to the ratio of nitrogen and oxygen in the air we breathe. You know, just so you know. And what else do we have underneath here? Well, looky there. That's where your owner's manual was actually there. It's sitting up with me right now. This looks like a man, what the hell is this? Ooh, it's a strange cargo net. We like the cargo net. And here is your cable for plugging the car in for charging. And here's more stuff. There's just lots of stuff in here. Lots of literature for you to peruse and read and enjoy. But overall, the cargo room is good. It's not super good because of the fastback body style to it. It cuts down quite a bit on cargo, but you still have plenty, in my opinion, anyway. And like I say, you can fold those seats forward in 60-40 increments and muchly increase what you have available for your suitcases and your barbells and your very, 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 very small L1011 model mock-ups. L1011 Children is a 3-engine airliner that was probably taken out of service well before you were born. But I liked it. I like the DC-10 better, but that's me. So there we have it. Pretty cool, huh? I'm going to say this over and over again. This paint job on this car, I happen to own a motorcycle that was actually used in a movie, believe it or not. This particular bike I have is a Triumph, and the color is real similar to this. But this, if you watch the movie Salt, you'll see Angelina Jolie riding my motorcycle. Not one like my motorcycle. The actual motorcycle I own was ridden by Angelina Jolie. There were 3 of them. There was a stunt bike and a process shot bike and what we like to call the Hero, and that's what she actually rode. So how about that? There's a bit of trivia that means nothing, absolutely nothing, except for I am in love with this paint job. It's a beautiful car. Enjoy. Hello. You know, I have to be honest, I think they're taking some license with these sounds of nature, because there's instrumentation here. I can hear it. That's not pure nature. What else do we have to choose from? Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. City of Dawn on a sailing ship. Let's go back to our friend Lively Forest. Oh, no, there's instrumentation in the forest, but that's not that unusual. Well, here we have something really interesting. The instrument cluster, which is, unfortunately, I got a little bit of a, let me see, hang on, let's take a little trip here. Let's take a little trip over here. See if I can get rid of some of that. There we go. That's good. Right there. Hang on. Right there. Right there. All right. Now, you see those flashing lights up top? You can't miss them, right? Well, that is, I don't know what that is. Other than that, I think I'm being watched by some devilish thing. Well, there's still a lot of reflection here, isn't there? God. Well, I don't think there's any way I can get rid of that right now. But the way I have this set up right now is fascinating, because what we're looking at is the 3D effect. Now, can you see this on your screen? The fact that it looks three-dimensional? It really does. This is a flat screen virtual display, but again, it is somehow using some sort of magic that is beyond me. Cluster, here we go. It really does look three-dimensional. It's kind of amazing. Now here we have three-dimensional cluster depth. And we'll look at that. Right now it's on maximum. And let me turn it off and see if you can see any difference. Ah, so that little red flashing light thingy has to do with the three-dimensional effect. I'll put it on medium, and there it is. It's back. Isn't that something? You probably had no idea. You can't see that with the naked eye, by the way. And then you put it on maximum, and there's your maximum effect. But if I'm going to leave it off, so that annoying red light, isn't that something? There is some kind of juju going on here, folks. This is like some serious magic. But anyway, our instrument cluster, we also have a theme selection. Let's go over and have a look at that. Link to drive mode, no. Now we'll try theme A, which is this. Oh, very nice. looks familiar somehow. Theme B now. Ooh, kind of a reddish, orangish tone to it. So far, I'm more of an A guy. And then we'll try the C. Ooh. I think C is what I was looking at before, because that looks more, and then I'll just link it to the drive mode here. And right now I'm in Eco, so that is linked to Eco. Now if I change the drive mode, for example, and I go to Comfort, very slight change there. If I go to Sport, I guarantee you there'll be, yep, always. It's got to be red or orange or something like that when you're doing your Sport. And then finally we have My Adjustment, which is still the best thing that they ever did with these drive modes, is have a situation like My Adjustment or Intelligent or whatever, depending on what the vehicle is, so that you can pick and choose various things that the car adjusts when you put it into a drive mode, such as your steering feel and your suspension and engine response, all that kind of stuff. But of course there is no engine response here, because we have electricity. Isn't that nice? What else do we have? We also have heads-up display. I guess I should turn that on so you can see it. There it goes. Oh, the Genesis logo is revealed. Can you see that? Can you see? Can you see? I don't know if you can see that or not. Well, trust me, if you can't see it, it's there. And it has a speed limit sign and a digital speedometer, and in my opinion, like all heads-up displays, is not something for me. Okay, now what else do we have here? Well, on our left side here, this is how much battery we have left, which was only half. So the question is, will I be able to make it to the charging station with 113 miles of range left? Boy, I tell you what. We'll see. It's much closer than that, but there are so many mitigating factors that can affect your battery life. But I'll try to drive conservatively on the, I'm on the My mode. I'll go back to Eco. Hang on. There we go. Back to Eco. So hopefully I'll make that fine. But anyway, that's your basic situation right there. You have 117 miles till you have to charge. And on the right side we have our regular odometer. In the middle I have accumulated info. I didn't reset the trip odometer when I should have, but I will after I charge. So, in the bottom, of course, you have your temperature on the left, and then on the right, you have the amount of regenerative braking that's going on, and how you're putting power back up into the system. So, that's good, useful information to have. It's not critical, but it's there for you. And we'll move over and we'll migrate to our very, very wide screen display. I'll put the map up for you. As you can see, it's very, well, first of all, it's low enough so it doesn't in any way impede your view, which is always good. And it's extremely widescreen, so you have a lot of information on the far right. It's telling me I have a nearby, oh, Gates Nissan. Last time I checked, they didn't have a charging station, but maybe that's changed. I'll have to check on that. I actually know the guy I actually know a Gates. And what else do we have as we migrate down here? Well, we have our climate control system, which is kind of large, actually, for these sorts of things. But if you look at the amazing visual display you have here, see, if I turn it off, then you can see it's not as amazing. But if I turn it back on, then we have, and naturally you have your individual zones for your left and right front passengers, or you can synchronize between the two, which is what I have done. I think I've done. Now I've done it. Thought I did it before. We also have driver only. Oh, we can just have the fan powered on the driver by him or herself. And then you have a heated steering wheel and all these wonderful things. Now, what do you do about your seats? Well, they're right here. You can cool, which I'm blasting coolness now, even though it's not necessary, but there she goes. Oh, you can hear it. Can you hear that? Whew. When it's on maximum, it ain't fooling around, man. So you got to go in the opposite direction of what you want to stop. There we go. But that works really nice. Well, there's been some hot weather in the last few days, and I can testify to the great comfort delivered by these cooled seats. Now, as we go down, we have this panel here, which is just general map navigation. The star setting, which is usually programmable, I would think. Yeah, button touchpad settings. There's a bunch of different things you can put there. It's a custom marker more than anything else, so it lets you customize that particular button to do a variety of tasks, depending on what you want them to do. Your hazards, your radio, your media, and your setup. Very convenient. For navigating that central screen. Why did I ever have to talk during these? I should have gotten someone that had a much better voice. I should have gotten Sam Elliott. That's what you do when you put it in gear. That's pretty much it. So, as we migrate further down, we have a very interesting array here. We have our drive modes, which I was using earlier, and here's our cameras. And naturally, there are many cameras to pick from. And here's our 360. Whee! Nice, huh? It'll move around, and this is all the combination of virtual and non-virtual situations. To tell you what exactly is going on around the vehicle, especially at low speeds and parking. And, of course, naturally, in your reverse. And then we have our parking assist here, which is the standard parking sensors that tells you what's going on with that. Volume is on, and on-off volume is for your radio, and then tuning is on the right-hand side. And then back, home, and menu, and this is your main navigation wheel for your central touchscreen. And I will naturally do my usual complaint about such things in that it is awfully similar in location and size to the transmission selector, which is this slightly knurled item right here, which reverse, neutral, drive, and park. So I still don't know why they do this. I think this should be much more different. Like a huge crystal of some sort would be great. You know, I love them crystal shifters. They're pretty, they're classy. But there you go. Now, what's in here? Here we have your standard USBs, 2 of them, and then you have you put your cell phone right here on this particular panel here, and it will charge as you drive, which is wonderful. Your QI there, and then we have our console back here that's got all kinds of things, including this very classy card here that you use to I don't know what you do. It's a key card. Wow. So if you want to pretend you're going to your hotel room, you can do that. There's a power port, 12 volt right there, and it's fairly deep. You can get a some items in there. You couldn't put like your laptop or anything in there, but this is not a huge vehicle. This is actually a more of a mid-side-ish kind of a character. And then as we go straight up, we have our shade to completely close out the outside world, or you can open it. And this is really opening it, see? Your standard moonroof arrangement. Yes. And here we are in the lively forest. Shall we have a picnic? No, I don't think we're going to do that. But that's great stuff. And of course, your very nice map light array here. Oh wait, I want to keep... You can do this in order to you just stop it where you want to if you want to keep it closed but open the shade. Not complicated at all. So as we roam about, you have some excellent Napa, which is part of I think that's part of an optional, let's see here, added features. Prestige package, yes, it's part of the Prestige package, is this very prestigious Napa leather upholstery, and very, very good side bolsters. And you can do all kinds of things, like you can press this button here and it'll recline like that, or you can move it up and down. Isn't that something? You can do it from right over here. That's kind of good. I could see where that could come in real handy under many circumstances. And your glove box, very roomy and very conventional. It has a regular latch right here instead of something up here or some kind of button way over here. You know, some of these cars, they go crazy with that stuff nowadays. But this is the tranquility that is the driver's perch. Oh yes, one other thing. It's loaded, this steering wheel, like most of them are today. But here is where you can select different central trip computer type material, as well as a little update there on what your adaptive cruise control is doing. And here we have our cruise control controls. That's activation, and this is this is actually scrolling on this wheel here. These things are all too close together, you know, they ought to be spread out more, I think. And here we have the plus and minus of your speed, and here we have your lane separation, and here we have, if you want, lane centering, which works fairly well. It's not the greatest ever, but none of them are. So, and we drift down, and what's this? Boost. That launches pretty much, that throws everything into the fire, as they say. Back when they used to have steam locomotives and you just put everything in there to get the thing going faster. Well, that's what Boost does. You have a hill descent control here, which is nice, and your traction control on and off. And this opens and closes. Beep, beep. Look at there. It's opening up. Let's close her down now. Close her down. I can't find it. Where did it go? Oh well, I'll just leave it open. It's right here. I couldn't help it. Have some fun. And okay, I think we've pretty much covered everything in the front here. I forget who exactly does our our stereo here. It sounds really nice, so let's see. I'm having a look here, Lexicon Premium Audio. Thank you, Lexicon. Well, very well done. Let's go aft. Let's see what else we have to see on this beauty. Gunmetal, man. It's just beautiful, beautiful paint scheme. Almost 90 degrees. Not quite, but good. And as we enter this realm, the first thing you'll notice is there's a lot of headroom. Wow. Tons of headroom. There's a very mild drive shaft tunnel, which there is no drive shaft, but let's say a utility tunnel where they run all of a lot of the wiring and things like that, your utilities. We do have greatness here. We have, let's see. How far down do we go? Not quite 100%, but close enough. And, yaha! Your shades. Excellent, excellent. Now look at this beautiful bevy of controls you have here with your climate control system for the rear seat. You have a lot of choices, including heat. The outboard seats are both heated. That's great. And you can just put it on automatic, and it is synchronized right now with the front, so it's the same. We're going to have 68 degrees in the entire unit. And I'll take this, get this out of the way. That's my backpack. Do you like that? This come from San Antonio press launch of the BMW LT years ago. God, more than I can even remember. There it is, see? Active, what's that say? Active time, active life. Swear the, I don't know what it is, but that was the bike. It's a nice motorcycle. These seats are really nice. They seem to have a great mix of, a lot of times with rear seating, the thigh portion of it here, right in here is a little too long, a little too short, whatever. These are just right. It's really comfortable. And of course, how can you go wrong with Napa leather? Well, you can't. And now the moment of truth now is our armrest. I'd say that's pretty perfect. This is really nice back there. You do have a lot of leg room. You have a lot of everything room. Very spacious. You have some very nice, oops, there we go. Very nice LED map lights for your pleasure. And does this have a, no, why would it need it? It's a hatchback sort of thing. So why would it have that? But anyway, it is definitely a 60-40 arrangement here. Definitely so. And I find it extremely pleasing overall. This is a real nice environment, and unlike the like the Infinity, excuse me, I didn't say Infinity. Sorry, that, strike that, reverse it. Thank you. This is Genesis is more of a, it really does have more of a sport utility feel to it, as opposed to say the amazing G90, which is just loaded with luxurious, crazy stuff. And this is a much more, dare I say it, conventional type of automobile. It does happen to be electrified though, and it's fully electric, and that makes it special enough. But I find overall it's a very easy place to get acclimated to immediately. The controls and everything are pretty good, except for this mess up here. I tell you, they're just too much alike for me. I think they're going to cause problems. Anyhow, what else is there to see? That's pretty much it for our interior of our GV70 Electrified. God, I'm just going to sit back here and just make it take a little nap here. Until later. So if you've watched any of my videos that involve the Genesis / Hyundai family, especially the Genesis family, you know how much I love my sounds of nature. It's one of my favorite things that they've done. I absolutely love it. And today, you know I have a penchant, if you've seen the other videos, for Lively Forest. And for you fans of Lively Forest, it will return in this video at some point. But right now, we're on a sailing ship. I don't know who we're on a sailing ship with. Could it be Mr. James Buffett, Esquire? James William Buffett, I believe the man's name is. Not sure about that. Or if you're really old and like some really mundane music, in my opinion, I shouldn't say that. I should never say that about anybody else, because somebody out there loves Christopher Cross. And I'm sure he's a lovely guy, and he is a wonderful writer, performer. But the song Sailing from Christopher Cross doesn't do much for me. But I do like having my electric car, which is whisper quiet. Not just because of the drivetrain, but because it's just a quiet car. These things are known for their solid construction, because there's been a celebrity or two that has wrapped one up pretty good. You know, the fact that Tiger Woods is still alive, a portion of that can be given to the engineers at Genesis that built the machine he was in when he rolled it like I don't know how many times. And they're very, very well made machines, and they're very safe. You shouldn't have to pay, everybody agrees on one thing, you shouldn't have to pay extra for a luxury brand to get optimal safety, but it doesn't always work that way. There's a lot of smaller, more affordable cars that are also very, very safe. But you really expect it when you get up into the luxury car category, which this is in. This one will set you back. I don't have my thing with me. My Monroney is in the back seat, and I'm not going to try to crawl back there and get it. You know, when I first got this vehicle, which was less than 24 hours ago, I had a real hard time turning off the a steering assist. It's not hard, the button is right here. But with so many buttons nowadays, you have to actuate the button properly, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to turn on or off what you're trying to do. Oh, here we go. I want this on all the way. I want to ventilate my seat just because I can. And because it's 91 degrees outside in April in New England, which is nuts. It's actually a fire danger, because see, all our trees do not have their foliage yet. So there's very little shade on the base of the forest where all the dead leaves are. So it's a fire hazard. Red flag warning is what they call it. So people, be real freaking careful with fire when you're out on a day like today, because bad things could happen if you're not sufficiently careful. And you should be. Oh, I don't have something I need to have with me. Well, crap. That makes me angry. Oh, I'm telling you right now, this seat ventilation is awesome. Oh man, I'm no longer in a like nasty 91 degree situation. I am now in an excellent situation. Oh man, I tell you. Another thing I like about these Genocide. Oh, that sounds too much. Sounds too close to genocide, doesn't it? Genesis is they do have excellent ride quality. They have that nice combination between comfort and handling, and of course, naturally, these things are adjustable. Matter of fact, here's our drive mode selector. Eco, Comfort, Sport, look out, Sport, and My Drive Mode, which allows personal selection of your particular parameters. I'm gonna leave it on Comfort. I like the softer suspension sometimes. It's more interesting. You can tell what the thing's up to. That and the fact, like so many parts of the world, our roads are falling apart up here, largely because of the radical changes in temperature we get from winter to summer now. Although it doesn't get near as cold in the winter, but it gets hot enough in the summer that the pavement takes a beating. And first of all, if there is some snow, and there was very little this year. Matter of fact, since I've lived in these parts, which is going on further than 25 years now, it was the warmest winter I've ever seen, and the lack of precipitation was mind-blowing. Usually I have my neighbor who has a classic 3/4 ton Ram with the Cummins diesel in it that he uses for plowing, and he plows our driveway for us. And I didn't have to call upon him once this year. Not once. Boy, it's almost too breezy. I'm going to turn this down more here. There we go. Do you think the On a Sailing Ship soundtrack knows that I'm just sitting here? No, I don't know if it does or not. One other thing that I will, right down here at the base of the steering wheel is a great big button that says boost. And I was contacted by the head of Genesis PR, urging me, he says, whatever you do, press that button. You won't believe what happens when you press that button. And what I believe happens is it just unleashes every last bit of power it has to propel you for short stints when you want that, you need that extra oomph, or you just want to experience it, you know. The power of an electric motor, well armed with a powerful battery. I can't get over. Now we're on a pretty rough road now, and this car rides very nicely. But we also have, you know, we had enough snow, and I sometimes wonder if it takes much of any for them to get the plows and the salt trucks out. The plows, of course, are there to destroy the pavement, and the salt is there to destroy your car. Because I have been to other parts of these United States to get a lot more snow than we do, and they don't use near as much salt as they do here in Connecticut. And it's a real problem. I mean, car dealers and mechanics love it. Well, actually mechanics don't love it because it makes a lot of simple chores as cars get older much more difficult, because everything starts to fall apart. The nuts and bolts that hold things together can't easily be removed because they're frozen or corroding to the part that you feel like you're down on the Titanic. It's that bad. So you got those things going against your road in your car, and so it's nice to have something that has a nice compliant suspension. Now this was recently repaved like a year ago about, and it's whisper smooth, like being on a flying carpet. A flying carpet at sea. A lot of people don't talk about that, but your flying carpet is not just used for navigating through the tight villages in the Middle East. You can also use your magic carpet when you're over the water. You can do that. A lot of people don't know that. But I'm here for you to pass on this information. So what else can I tell you about this car? Well, how's our transmission? How many speeds does it have? One, it's just like all the electrics. In order to go faster, the electric motor spins faster. To slow down, slower. It's so wonderfully simple. One of the things I've always been saying is that, in theory, electric cars should be the most reliable, simplest cars on the road, but they are not. Because there's so much other stuff going on to maximize range. And they, you know, manufacturers, Tesla is always one of the leading purveyors of this, is they just load it up with electronic doodads and crap and really bad designs just because they feel like, well, it's got to be different from a regular car. It's got to be futuristic. We have to have one big iPad with a steering wheel attached to it, and that's basically running the car that way. Never giving, in my opinion, enough thought to whether or not that's actually the best way to do things. And Genesis, I have my number of actual complaints about basic Genesis design in their cars is very small, but one of the biggest ones is, and I've already talked about this, but I'll be talking about it again because I think it's bad. You have a circular gear selector, which is actually a drive selector with reverse, neutral, and drive on it. And it's got a little bit of knurling, and it's a little bit smaller diameter than this, which is what you use to navigate around your central touchscreen. And that's, we'll put the map up here. Hopefully that's not flickering. I haven't done my flicker test yet. Damn it. But you use this to like navigate. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can do all kinds of things with it. But it is very, very similar. Even though this has the knurling on it and this has little segments on it, they're real similar to each other. They're more similar than they need to be, in my opinion. I just don't think they should be this close together, because it's easy to make a mistake. And like, if I was to push down the middle of this instead of the middle of this, like to select something like that, I would be putting the car in park. And naturally, the car is smart enough to know that you're not actually in park. So that's okay, but isn't that weird that you can easily make that mistake? If this is your daily driver, you're going to learn everything and get comfortable with it, and it's not going to be a problem. But if you drive more than one vehicle, it's very different than most of the other stuff you're driving. And you have to live with that, and you have to deal with it. Deal with it, man. You got to deal with it. Oh, the brakes are just wonderfully buttery smooth. Naturally, we have our regenerative braking paddles here, which I haven't been using yet, but I love using them. Because let's make those brake pads and those mechanical brakes and the rotors and everything else, let's make them last as long as possible. Oh, this is why we're not moving. I don't like that. Damn, this traffic jam hurts my motor to go so slow. No, it doesn't. The electrics, I haven't driven an electric car yet that I have not enjoyed driving, because I'm all about the smoothness. I preferred a glider to a powered small aircraft every time, because I liked how gliders are very smooth. They're not necessarily quiet, by the way. There was a manufacturer that used to do commercials that said it's as quiet as a glider, and they showed somebody flying a glider with a decimal meter and measured the sound in that cockpit when they're flying at about 5,000 feet, which is pretty normal altitude for a glider. And then they compared it to the LTD or the Malibu or whatever the hell they were driving, and it was actually quieter. Well, gliders aren't necessarily quiet at all. You have the wind rushing past you, and you can dramatically change the interior volume level by just dipping the nose a little bit and increasing your airspeed. It gets a lot louder. It's one of the things that's great about it. You can tell how fast you're going half the time in a glider, as far as what your airspeed is, by the sound. And so with electrics, they spend so much time, I feel like, making them as quiet as possible. Unlike ambulances, which they try to make loud as possible for obvious reasons. So far since I've been on this little trip of approximately, oh boy, I haven't even set up my, I don't know how many miles I've gotten on this particular charge, but I didn't start with a full charge. I'll have to determine that later when I do start with a full charge. It's telling me I've gone 3.1 miles per kilowatt hour. I don't know how efficient that is, but since I got it, it had about 201 miles on it. I've probably driven it 20. Yes, come on, girl. Or it could be a guy. The hair seems to be a female, but you never know. I'd say I've probably driven it about 30 miles, maybe. And according to that's roughly where we're at as far as I now have a range left of 175 miles. And the interesting thing about that is it's about 20 to 30 miles to where my charger is, where I'll be charging it. So I kind of, you want to get rid of the anxiety, the electrical anxiety, the battery anxiety, because you don't want to have to spend all your time worrying about, am I going to make it? Am I in trouble? You got to think about all that. And, but this car is going to be an interesting one, because having driven several other Genesis Electrifieds, and just Hyundai and Genesis, because the last electric I had was the Ioniq 5, which I liked very much. How does it feel as far as your range? You get a thing that's almost like a subconscious thing, where you feel much more relaxed in certain electrics compared with others, and a big part of that is just the range. The longer the range, the more relaxed you are about things. You know you're going to have enough. Let's face it, if you own an electric car, you're going to invest in a home charger. It's going to be at least 240 volts. You're just going to do that because it doesn't make any sense not to, unless you live next door to a charging station. So you've got that, and as long as you have plenty of range to get out and back to whatever your errand or business takes you, you're fine. You know, as long as I'd always add another. What's my conservative rate here? Well, let's say it's round trip 30 miles out to where I'm going and coming back to the house is 30 miles. How much electric range will I feel like I really need to have? I'd say I'm very conservative about electric cars at this point. I just am. So I'd say 50 miles. As long as you have a 50-mile range left, I feel very comfortable going out and back 30 miles. But things can change. There's so many different things that can affect the battery life that may be sort of unexpected. Are you climbing big grades? Are there huge hills between you and your destination? And of course, people will talk about regenerative braking, and you're going to get some of that back, but it's not. I don't even look at regenerative braking as in building the brakes back, building the battery back up. I look at it as slowing the battery drain down, because I really feel like, in terms of raw numbers, that's pretty much what you're doing. You're helping to reduce the amount that you're expending, but you're not really adding back 100% of what you've used. If that makes sense. This is like such a pleasant experience. And I always say this because people are always asking me about electrics, and I said, well, the bad thing about them is if you drive one, you're going to want one, because it does really feel, makes a gasoline-powered car, not all of them, but most of them, feel like dinosaurs by comparison. They really do. As we are bashing through the waves on our sailing ship. Oh, what's experience the universe? We may have to try that. Let's experience the universe together. Oh, wow. This reminds me a little bit of another Genesis. I believe it was the G90, because it had the mood curator, which would curate your mood. Now you have to be careful when you're the driver that you don't get too curated, because you'll just drift off into the cosmos if you're not careful. But for your passengers, oh man, you can put them in a very nice space. People that never have meditated before, you can throw in that car and put on the mood curator, and they'll start meditating without even realizing they're doing it, you know. And you had several themes. Look, there goes a space station. Seems to have it's been hit by space junk and no one's living on it anymore. So it's ultimately going to happen, all the stuff that's flitting around the atmosphere out here. We have too many satellites, and they're putting literally, I think SpaceX or something is going to put up literally tens of thousands more. And we already can't keep track of what we have up there. Did you know the space station was hit by something about a year ago? I think it was about a year ago. A piece of, they never knew what the debris was, but something hit it, and it cracked one of the outer panes of one of the windows. And that was a bit scary. Fortunately, the way they're designed, they're like an airline windows. There's like 3 or 4 panes of glass in most airliners to prevent the fact that if something does get hit outside, you stand a decent chance of it holding together and holding pressure. At least when it ruptures, you're not going to have an explosive decompression type situation, and the flight crew will have time to drop down to 10,000 feet or so that everybody will be okay, both with air and with just general pressure. You want something close to cabin pressure, which I think they hold when you're at 30, 40,000 feet in an airliner. I think you're holding about 12,000 feet. It's the same thing as being up at 12,000 feet. It used to be. That's probably old, like like Boeing 727s, which used to be what the 737 and the Airbus A320 and 319s are now. Just the cabs, the Ubers of the air travel industry. They were ubiquitous. See, I blame the expanding experience of the universe that is separating my consciousness from my thought processes. But I do love it so. Sometimes you're in the mood for music. This one has, what do we have? Harman Kardon, I think? I'll determine that. But it sounds fantastic. And the fact that you can alter what you're doing as far as you have music you can listen to, you can listen to talk radio. Naturally, you have total smartphone integration, so you can listen to anything you have on your smartphone, podcast, and everything else. But none of them have this, the sounds of nature. Or do they sell that? I should ask my PR friend at Genesis whether or not that's the case. Okay, it's time to go back to work. Now let's use some cruise control here. And yeah, I'll let it steer itself for a minute. There we go. So all I'm doing now is kind of sitting here. The car is providing its own regulation of the propulsion, and the electric power steering is doing its electric power steering thing by steering me down the middle of the lane. And so far, it seems to be doing a very nice job. We always look for this, don't we, children? Whether or not the thing starts to weaving. Some of them just do. I'm not sure what cues they're getting that are telling them to do that. And like I said one time before, if you have a system that is primarily based on the visual cues, which the camera sees, of where the lane lines are, and you get somebody from the highway department that when they laid down these new lines was drunker than a pig in a pub, and your car's going to weave too, because that's what it's using. Ah, yes. Shall I send you a link? Huh. Well, welcome to the rear suspension of the GV70 Electrified. And what you're about to see is one of the best tucked away undercarriages around that I've seen in a long time. Anyway, but here we have our multi-link rear suspension becoming common but never the same on two cars, it seems like. All kinds of different frim and frippery going on here. Now this looks like it could be something that you might think, if you know your Genesis models, you might think it has something to do with rear wheel steering. Well, this one does not have rear wheel steering, but it's not unusual to find rear wheel steering on a Genesis. This is just a link, and this is a piece of plastic to protect this lower arm here. And now check this out. Look at this, how smooth and everything is all tucked in. Somewhere up underneath this little bit here is your rear drive module, as I like to call it, which is your rear differential and your electric motor that powers the rear wheels. So it's completely isolated from the front drivetrain, and which is great. It's so many good things about that in terms of packaging and everything else. It makes things so much easier. And let's face it, actually adds a degree of simplicity to the system when you just have a rear drive system that's all itself. Now obviously without your computer controls you got a problem, because that's the thing that's telling the rear drive system what the front drive system is up to, and they have to be in cahoots with each other in order to work properly. But that's not a real problem at all. That's just your basic computer ease. And here we have our Everside, our other link over here. But overall, the big take home is how smooth it is underneath here. And see, right up there, that huge flat portion that's where all your batteries are. Roughly 1,000 pounds worth, I believe, if memory serves. And so you got this nice flat aerodynamic undercarriage that also offers a degree of protection from road hazards or off-road hazards, although this is not an off-road vehicle, but it is certainly an all-road vehicle and an all-weather vehicle. And if you look up in here, you can see some of the electricity, or so it looks. That's not for the actual high voltage power system though, because if it was, it would be that bright orange type of cable. So anyway, this is a beautiful thing. I like the fact that it is so beautifully tucked away and so aerodynamic, and also if I may say so, it's pretty upscale as well. So there we go. Thank you, GV70 Electrified. Your questions. Oh yes. Well, it took about an hour to recharge it at a commercial station that gets has a 350 kilowatt charger. About an hour to bring it from 60% up to 100% completely. So that's not too bad. The range is a little over 200 miles, which is my real world experience. So your amount may vary. But first of all, $65,850 is your base price, and our as tested price was $75,275. A very nice electric car. Go buy two. And be careful out there, folks. We'll see you next time.
Gesandt geworden, ist viel ein